Dr. Madison Hayes pressed her palm against the reinforced window of the Starbound Global Seed Vault's main laboratory, watching as another explosion lit up the horizon. The midnight sun cast an eerie glow across the Arctic landscape, its natural beauty now marred by the dark silhouettes of Kraxan warships hanging in the Norwegian sky. "Package secure, Dr. Hayes," Private Jenkins called out, his voice echoing through the facility's steel corridors. He emerged from the vault's depths, pushing a hovercart loaded with cryogenic containers, humanity's last backup of viable food crop genetics. The initial attack had come just 16 hours ago. The first ships appeared over Shanghai, their crystal lattice hulls refracting the morning sun like massive prisms. Within minutes, they were everywhere. New York, London, Moscow, Delhi, humanity's greatest cities reduced to ash, before anyone could comprehend what was happening. Madison's tablet buzzed with another emergency broadcast. She didn't need to look. They were all the same now. Major military installations worldwide had gone dark. The Chinese hypersonic missile program, America's orbital defense platforms, Europe's electromagnetic pulse arrays, all neutralized with surgical precision. Dr. Hayes, the sharp voice of Commander Erik Larsen, cut through her thoughts. The former Norwegian Special Forces operator stood in the doorway, snow crusting his tactical gear. "We need to move. Now." "They're pushing north." Madison nodded, grabbing her research tablet and the portable DNA sequencer. "Jenkins, get those samples to the deep freeze. Sublevel 3. Section." The facility's lights flickered as a distant boom rattled the reinforced windows. Through the glass, Madison watched a Kraxan destroyer methodically reduce Longyearbyen to rubble, its plasma weapons cutting through buildings like butter. The small Arctic town, humanity's northernmost settlement, vanished in waves of blue fire. "They're not even bothering with ground troops here," Larsen muttered, checking the feed from his tactical visor. "Just glassing everything from orbit." A new alert flashed across the lab's main screen. A transmission from the Russian Arctic Brigade. Madison's fingers flew across the keyboard, decrypting the message. Her eyes widened. "Commander, look at this." She pulled up thermal imaging from a Russian drone. The footage showed a Kraxan ground unit attempting to pursue resistance fighters into the Siberian wilderness. As the temperature dropped below -20 degrees Celsius, the alien soldiers began to falter. At -30 degrees Celsius, their movements became erratic. Below -40 degrees Celsius, their armor started failing catastrophically. "They're retreating," Larsen breathed, watching the aliens abandon their pursuit. "They can't handle the cold." More data poured in. Similar reports from Antarctic research stations, from high-altitude bases in the Himalayas, from deep Arctic military installations. The Kraxan were avoiding extreme cold environments, pulling back when temperatures dropped too low. The facility shook again, closer this time. Madison's tablet showed Kraxan ships systematically working their way up the Norwegian coast, but they were being careful, precise, staying away from the most extreme polar regions. "They're not just avoiding the cold," Madison realized, her scientific mind racing. "They're afraid of it." Larsen's tactical visor lit up with new warnings. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before they reach us. Whatever we're doing, we do it now." Madison looked at the vault's massive freeze units, then at her research on cold weather human genetic adaptations. The pieces started falling into place. The Kraxan's weakness, humanity's potential salvation. "Commander," she said, her voice steady despite the growing thunder of destruction outside. "I need you to help me save something more important than seeds. We need to get all my research on polar human genetics and the Mars colonization biotech to the emergency bunker." "The survival bunker's only rated for 100 people," Larsen warned. Madison's eyes hardened as another explosion lit up the Arctic night. "That's all we need. 100 people to evolve into something new, something that can fight back." Outside, the aurora borealis shimmered green and purple above the approaching Kraxan ships, nature's last peaceful display before the coming storm. But deep beneath the ice, the seeds of humanity's resistance were about to take root. They thought they'd slaughtered mankind. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 weeks after the initial invasion, the survivors of Svalbard huddled in the repurposed deep freeze chambers of Bunker Site Echo. Dr. Madison Hayes hunched over her microscope, examining a tissue sample from a fallen Kraxan soldier that Commander Larson's team had recovered at great cost. "Their cellular structure is unlike anything we've seen," she murmured, adjusting the magnification. The alien cells contained crystalline structures that seemed to shatter under extreme cold. It's like their evolution never prepared them for temperatures below freezing. A commotion at the bunker's entrance interrupted her analysis. The heavy blast doors groaned open, admitting a blast of Arctic air and 3 figures covered in snow. 2 helped support a third, who limped badly. "Med team." Larson's voice boomed through the chamber. He pulled off his frost-covered mask, revealing fresh cuts across his face. "We've got wounded." Madison rushed to help, recognizing the injured soldier as Private Jenkins. His leg was badly wounded, but his face showed something else. Excitement. "Dr. Hayes," he gasped as they lowered him onto a medical cot. "You need to see what we found." "Show her, Commander." Larson pulled a sealed container from his pack. Inside was a piece of Kraxan technology, some kind of environmental control unit from their armor. But what caught Madison's attention was the frost pattern crystallized across its surface. "It's not just their bodies that can't handle the cold," Larson explained, his breath still visible in the chilly air of the bunker. "Their tech freezes up too. We watched a whole squad of them malfunction when they tried to pursue us across the glacier. Their weapons seized, their armor locked up. They literally froze in place." Madison's mind raced with possibilities. This isn't just about survival anymore. We found their weakness, but we need to solve our own cold problems first. She led Larson to her makeshift lab, where multiple screens displayed genetic sequences, some human, some from Arctic wildlife. "I've been studying the Inuit genetic adaptations to cold, combining them with the experimental Mars colonization protocols we were developing. If we can enhance our natural cold resistance." "You want to turn us into super soldiers?" Larson raised an eyebrow. "I want to turn us into Arctic warriors," Madison corrected. "But there's a catch. The process will be dangerous, painful, and there's no going back." Before Larson could respond, the bunker's alert system blared. A voice crackled over the speakers, multiple contacts approaching from the south. "Kraxan dropships, at least 3. Larson rushed to the command center, Madison close behind. The thermal imaging showed the alien ships approaching, but staying high above the most extreme cold zones. "They're getting bolder," Larson growled. "Testing our limits. Or desperate," Madison added. "Our last raid hurt them. They lost an entire forward operating base to temperatures they never expected to face." The bunker shook as the Kraxan ships launched their first salvo. They were being more cautious this time, methodically probing for weaknesses in the ice above. "We can't just keep hiding," Jenkins spoke up from his cot. "We need to fight back." Madison looked at her research, then at the determined faces around her. "I need volunteers," she announced. "The process is ready for human trials. We can start the transformation tonight." "You have your first volunteer right here." Larson stepped forward, his voice firm. "How long will it take?" Another explosion rocked the bunker. Ice crystals rained from the ceiling as the Kraxan weapons tried to bore through the glacier above them. 48 hours for the first phase," Madison answered. "If you survive it." Larson checked his weapon, then began removing his combat gear. "Better get started then. Those ships up there. They think we're just rats hiding in the ice. Time to show them what the rats can do." As Madison prepared the first injection of modified genetic material, she caught her reflection in a frozen panel. Soon, they would all be something new, no longer just survivors, but the beginning of humanity's comeback. The war for Earth was about to enter a new phase, and winter was on humanity's side. Commander Eric Larson's screams echoed through the converted medical bay of Bunker Site Echo. His body convulsed on the surgical table as the modified genetic material rewrote his DNA, steam literally rising from his skin despite the sub-zero temperatures. "Hold him down," Dr. Madison Hayes ordered, preparing another stabilizing injection. His core temperature is approaching 42 degrees Celsius. The medical team struggled to restrain him as another spasm racked his body. Ice crystals formed and instantly melted around his sweat-soaked skin, creating a surreal mist that filled the room. "Heart rate critical," one of the medics announced. "We're losing him." Madison refused to give up. This was their 7th attempt at the transformation process. The first 6 volunteers had survived, but their changes were incomplete, insufficient. Larson was receiving a concentrated dose, pushing the boundaries of what a human body could endure. "Come on, Eric," she whispered, injecting the stabilizer directly into his heart. "Fight it." His body went rigid, back arching off the table. The heart monitor flatlined. For 10 seconds, nothing. Then 20. At 30 seconds, frost began spreading across Larson's chest from the injection site. The crystals formed intricate patterns, like Arctic ferns growing across his skin. "Doctor," the medic started, reaching for the time of death log. Suddenly, the monitor pinged. Once, twice, then a steady rhythm, slower and stronger than any normal human heart. Larson's eyes snapped open. They had changed, the irises now a pale, crystalline blue that seemed to capture the essence of glacial ice. "Cold," he gasped. "I need cold." "Get him to the freezer chamber," Madison ordered. The team rushed him into a research freezer set to -70 degrees Celsius. The moment the frigid air hit his skin, Larson's breathing stabilized. His vital signs strengthened. He stood up, steam no longer rising from his body, and touched the freezer wall. Ice crystals spread from his fingertips. "How do you feel?" Madison asked through the observation window. Larson looked at his hands in wonder. "Strong. Like I've been sleeping my whole life, and just woke up." He pressed his palm against the reinforced glass. Frost patterns immediately began spreading across it. Private Jenkins limped into the observation room, his own transformation from last week evident in his pale blue eyes. "Did it work?" Madison checked the readings. "Better than we hoped. His cellular structure has completely adapted. Core temperature can drop to levels that would kill an ordinary human, and his muscles actually grow stronger in extreme cold." "What about the others?" Jenkins asked. As if in answer, the bunker's intercom crackled. "Dr. Hayes to Training Chamber 3. The beta group is ready for cold immersion testing." In the massive chamber converted from an old seed storage vault, 20 newly transformed soldiers stood in nothing but light training gear. The room temperature was -50 degrees Celsius. They looked comfortable. "Begin combat trials," Larson ordered, joining them after quickly dressing. His movements were fluid, unhampered by the extreme cold. The training session that followed defied ordinary human limits. They moved with incredible speed, their enhanced muscles turning the bitter cold into raw power. When they touched their weapons, frost immediately coated the metal, but rather than hindering the mechanisms, the ice seemed to work with them. Madison watched from the observation deck, documenting everything. "We're not just surviving the cold anymore," she noted. "We're weaponizing it." An alert flashed on her tablet. Another Kraxan patrol detected near the surface. This time, instead of tension, she felt a surge of anticipation. "Doctor," Larson called out, his voice carrying an authority that seemed amplified by his transformation. "We're ready for a field test." Madison looked at her creation, these warriors who had evolved beyond ordinary human limitations. The Frost Legion, as the soldiers had begun calling themselves. "Then let's show our visitors what winter can do," she replied, initiating the surface deployment sequence. The Kraxan were about to learn that in their attempt to destroy humanity, they had instead forced its evolution, And this new humanity was coming for them with all the fury of an Arctic storm. The Kraxan never saw them coming. Through the swirling snow of a polar night, Commander Eric Larson led his team of 12 Frost Legion soldiers toward the alien forward operating base. They moved like ghosts across the glacier, their modified bodies perfectly adapted to the minus 60-degree temperatures that had already claimed 2 Kraxan patrol units. "Remember, Dr. Madison," Hayes's voice crackled through their enhanced comm systems, "you have 90 minutes before the next orbital scan. Make them count." The aliens had converted an abandoned research station into their northernmost outpost, using it to launch attacks against the few remaining human strongholds. Their overconfidence was about to cost them dearly. "Legion, sound off," Larson subvocalized, his enhanced vocal cords carrying clearly despite the howling wind. Each soldier responded with a quick click, 12 lights turning green in his heads-up display. Private Jenkins, now fully recovered and enhanced, took point with the ice-boring equipment. The modified mining laser, powered by salvaged Kraxan technology, cut through the glacier like butter. Steam instantly froze around the entry point, concealing their infiltration. 20 meters to target, Jenkins reported. "Wait. Movement above." The team froze. Through the ice, they could see the heat signatures of Kraxan troops moving on the surface. The aliens' environmental suits glowed like beacons to their enhanced vision. "They're retreating inside," Larson observed. Temperatures dropping. Perfect timing. The boring laser finished its work, creating a shaft that led directly under the station. One by one, the Legion soldiers emerge, their white combat suits indistinguishable from the surrounding ice. Then everything went wrong. A Kraxan sensor array, buried deep in the ice, detected their heat signatures. Alarms blared throughout the base. The element of surprise was lost. "Plan Beta," Larson commanded. "Weapons free. Show them what winter feels like." The Legion split into 3 teams, each targeting different entry points. Jenkins' team reached the main door first, planting modified cryo charges. The explosion didn't just breach the door. It flash froze the entire entrance chamber. Inside, chaos erupted. The Kraxan's environmental suits, designed to keep them warm, began failing under the sudden temperature shock. Their plasma weapons sputtered and died as ice formed in the emission chambers. "Push forward," Larson ordered, leading his team through the frozen corridor. "Don't let them regroup." The Legion moved with terrifying efficiency. Each touch of their enhanced hands spread killing frost across alien equipment. Kraxan soldiers found their armored joints freezing solid, trapping them in place. Those that managed to fire their weapons watched in horror as the Legion soldiers walked through plasma bolts, their modified bodies dispersing the heat instantly. "Central Command Center breached," Jenkins reported. "You need to see this, Commander." Larson fought his way through a final group of panicking aliens to reach the command center. Inside, holographic displays showed the true scale of the Kraxan operation and their fatal miscalculation. They never bothered to fortify their northern flanks, Madison observed through their video feed. They didn't think anything could survive out here. A massive explosion rocked the base. One of the Kraxan's power cores was overloading, unable to handle the extreme cold the Legion had brought inside. "Download everything," Larson ordered. "Then rig this place to freeze solid. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate human adaptation." As his team worked, Larson approached a wounded Kraxan commander. The alien's crystallizing exoskeleton cracked as it tried to move. "Impossible," it rasped in translated English. "No species can survive these temperatures." Larson's pale blue eyes gleamed in the emergency lighting. "You should have studied Earth's history better. Winter has always been humanity's ally. We just needed a reminder of how to embrace it." The team completed their mission with 20 minutes to spare, leaving behind a tomb of ice where a Kraxan fortress had stood. As they disappeared back into the darkness, Larson sent a simple message to all human resistance frequencies. "The Arctic warriors send their regards, and winter is coming for all of them." In her bunker, Madison smiled as she began transmitting the captured Kraxan data to all surviving human outposts. The real war was about to begin. Dr. Madison Hayes's hands flew across the captured Kraxan command console, its crystalline interface now frosted over from her enhanced touch. The data streaming across the screen confirmed her worst fears and their greatest opportunity. "Everyone needs to see this," she whispered, initiating a global broadcast on all remaining human frequencies. The message began with footage from the Frost Legion's raid, showing humanity's first decisive victory against the invaders. But it was what came next that would change everything. To all surviving human resistance cells, Madison's voice rang clear across the transmission. The Kraxan archives have revealed why Earth was chosen as their first major conquest. They thought we were easy prey because of our primitive reliance on environmental adaptation rather than technological dominance. She paused, letting the translation of a Kraxan military assessment play. Species shows remarkable diversity, but lacks unified environmental control. Relies on biological adaptation to survive extreme conditions. Assessment: technologically inferior, suitable for initial expansion phase. Commander Larson stepped into view, his frost-touched eyes gleaming. They were wrong. What they saw as weakness is our greatest strength. Humanity doesn't need to control our environment. We adapt to master it. The broadcast shifted to live footage from Bunker Site Echo's training chamber. Enhanced soldiers moved through temperatures cold enough to freeze nitrogen, their movements fluid and powerful. Ice formed and shattered around them as they demonstrated their new capabilities. "This is not just about survival anymore," Madison continued. "We have developed a way to enhance humanity's natural cold adaptation abilities. The Kraxan's own data proves they cannot operate effectively in extreme cold environments. Their technology fails. Their biology breaks down. They fear the winter, and we have become winter itself." Private Jenkins, monitoring the broadcast's reach, reported incoming responses. "Signals reaching Antarctica, Dr. Greenland bases responding. Even getting pings from high-altitude stations in the Himalayas." The messages flooded in. "Confirmed contact from McMurdo Station. Mount Logan Research Base standing by. Himalayan Forward Base reporting." Madison's voice grew stronger. "To every human fighting to survive, you are not alone. The Arctic warriors have proven the Kraxan can be beaten. Their arrogance made them ignore Earth's polar regions, thinking nothing could survive here. That mistake will cost them everything." She pulled up tactical displays showing Kraxan patrol patterns. "Look at their deployment. They're afraid to venture into any region below -40 degrees. They've left gaps in their coverage, gaps we can exploit. Gaps that will become their graves." Larson took over, his military training evident as he detailed their strategy. "We're transmitting everything. Our enhancement protocols, tactical data, Kraxan weaknesses. Every resistance cell in every cold region of Earth can become part of the Frost Legion. We don't need to match their numbers or technology. Nature itself is our ally." The responses grew more urgent. Resistance leaders worldwide began coordinating, sharing resources, planning simultaneous strikes. Hope spread like wildfire through the secure channels. "But most importantly," Madison concluded, "we're sending proof that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our numbers. It's our ability to adapt, to take what others see as hostile and make it our home." She ended with captured footage of Kraxan soldiers retreating from the Arctic warriors, their supposedly superior technology failing as the enhanced humans emerged from lethal blizzards unscathed. "They thought they were hunting us." Larson's voice carried the weight of certainty. "They didn't realize they were pushing us to evolve. The Frost Legion is humanity's answer to extinction. We are the winter they fear." As the transmission ended, Madison watched the response counter climb. Hundreds, then thousands of resistance cells acknowledged receipt. Plans were already being shared, resources coordinated. "It's starting," Jenkins observed, watching the global tactical display light up with new contact points. Madison nodded, frost spreading from her fingers across her tablet. They wanted to break humanity by forcing us into the cold. A smile crossed her face. Instead, they're about to learn what happens when humanity embraces it. The war for Earth was entering a new phase. And this time, winter wasn't coming. It was already here. The ancient meeting hall of Ulukaktok, Northwest Territories, had never hosted a gathering quite like this. Dr. Madison Hayes stood before a diverse group of leaders, Inuit elders, military commanders, scientists from Antarctic bases, and representatives from mountain stations worldwide. Steam rose from her enhanced body in the sub-zero temperature of the hall. The cellular transformation process is stable, she explained, frost patterns forming on the display screen behind her. But we need more than just enhanced soldiers. We need the wisdom of those who have thrived in these conditions for millennia. Elder Sarah Kanayak, her face weathered by decades in the Arctic, stepped forward. Your science has given you the ability to survive our lands, she spoke, her voice carrying decades of wisdom. But surviving is not enough. You must learn to become one with the ice. Commander Larson, standing at attention despite the bitter cold, nodded respectfully. That's why we're here. The Frost Legion has the strength, but we need your knowledge. The meeting was interrupted by a distant rumble. Through the reinforced windows, multiple Kraxan ships descended from the cloud cover, their crystalline hulls reflecting the aurora borealis. They found us, Jenkins reported from his monitoring station. 3 capital ships, dozens of dropships. Before panic could spread, Elder Kanayak smiled. Then let us give your soldiers their first real lesson. She turned to the gathered Inuit hunters. Show them how our people have hunted in these lands since time immemorial. What followed was a masterclass in Arctic warfare. The hunters demonstrated ancient techniques for moving across ice without leaving traces, using snow formations for cover, and predicting weather patterns. The Frost Legion's enhanced abilities combined with this traditional knowledge created something entirely new. Like the polar bear, one hunter explained, showing Legion soldiers how to mask their heat signatures, you must become part of the cold itself. The Kraxan attack, when it came, found no easy target. Their dropships searched for a settlement, but found only empty buildings and undisturbed snow. Their ground forces detected no heat signatures, no movement, no signs of life. Then the storm began. The Legion struck from hidden ice tunnels, using generations-old hunting paths known only to the Inuit. Enhanced soldiers, moving like Arctic shadows, emerged from the whiteout conditions. Each touch of their modified hands spread killing frost across Kraxan technology. Formation Nanook, Larson ordered, using the Inuktitut word for polar bear. The Legion soldiers moved in hunting patterns perfected over thousands of years, striking with ancient wisdom, enhanced by modern power. Madison watched from the command center as the Kraxan forces fell into one trap after another. Alien soldiers crashed through hidden ice sheets into freezing waters. Others were isolated and picked off using hunting strategies originally developed for seal hunting. McMurdo Station, online. The communications officer announced. Antarctic Alliance reporting ready. Mount Logan, standing by. Himalayan bases, confirmed. Across Earth's coldest regions, the Alliance was forming. Each group brought their own knowledge. Antarctic researchers shared data on surviving extreme conditions. Himalayan monasteries offered centuries of high-altitude wisdom. Mountain rescue teams contributed their expertise in impossible terrain. They thought we were primitive because we adapted to our environments instead of trying to control them, Madison observed, watching the Kraxan ships retreat in disarray. They never understood that this was our strength. Elder Kunayak placed a wrinkled hand on Madison's frost-covered arm. Your science has given us new weapons, she said, but remember, the ice has always been our ally. Now it will help us take back our world. As the Alliance members coordinated their global strategy, Larson received reports of similar successes worldwide. The Kraxan's hold on Earth's cold regions was breaking. We're not just fighting back anymore, Madison realized. watching resistance cells worldwide adopt the combined strategies. We're teaching them to fear the winter, and winter is everywhere. Outside, the aurora danced across the sky, nature's light show illuminating a new chapter in human history. The Arctic warriors had become more than just enhanced soldiers. They were the living embodiment of humanity's greatest gift, the ability to learn, adapt, and evolve. The Kraxen's nightmare was just beginning. "Initiate Operation Permafrost," Dr. Madison Hayes commanded, her voice carrying across the global tactical network. Frost spread from her fingers across the crystalline control panel, technology reverse-engineered from captured Kraxen equipment. On screens throughout the command center, dots of blue light activated across the globe. Each represented a weather control station, built from modified alien atmospheric processors. What the Kraxen had designed for terraforming, humanity had repurposed for warfare. Commander Larson's voice crackled through the comm. "All Frost Legion units in position. Antarctic teams confirm ready. Mountain stations standing by." The first phase began over Moscow, where the Kraxen had established their largest Earth-based command center. The alien commanders watched in confusion as their atmospheric sensors detected rapidly dropping temperatures. -40 degrees and falling, Jenkins reported from his monitoring station. Their environmental systems are starting to strain. Madison nodded grimly. "Trigger the pressure inversions. Show them what a real winter feels like." Across the Russian capital, the sky darkened as artificially generated storm clouds gathered. The Kraxen's weather control satellites attempted to intervene, but they were designed to create heat, not counter extreme cold. Their efforts only fed more energy into the growing storm. -60 degrees at ground level, Jenkins announced. Storm front expanding. Kraxen ships attempting emergency takeoff. "Not this time," Larson growled. Through the tactical feed, Madison watched as Legion teams emerged from hidden positions around the city. Their enhanced bodies moved effortlessly through temperatures that froze nitrogen in the air. The Kraxen response was devastating, but expected. Their capital ships opened fire with plasma weapons, trying to burn away the supernatural storm. Instead, the energy differential created something unprecedented, a polar vortex of impossible intensity. "They're playing right into it," Madison observed. "Every weapon they fire just makes the storm stronger. The heat differential is." Warning klaxons cut her off. On the main screen, a massive energy signature erupted from the Kraxen command center. "They're deploying it." Larson's voice was tense. The atmospheric ignition device. This was the moment they'd feared. Intelligence had warned the Kraxen had developed a weapon capable of setting Earth's atmosphere ablaze. They'd hoped the aliens wouldn't risk using it. "All units, execute Maneuver Winter's Heart," Madison commanded. Across Moscow, Frost Legion soldiers activated their modified Kraxen tech. The combined effect of their enhanced bodies and the reversed alien technology created localized zones of near absolute zero temperatures. The Kraxen weapon fired. A beam of pure plasma shot skyward, designed to trigger a chain reaction in Earth's atmosphere. It met the artificially generated supercold storm head-on. For a moment, day turned to night as the energies clashed. Then physics took over. The extreme temperature differential created a phenomenon never before seen on Earth, a cascading cryo-reaction that turned the Kraxen's own weapon against them. "Energy weapon neutralized," Jenkins reported, awe in his voice. Temperature continuing to drop in the target zone. Kraxen forces. They're freezing solid. Through the tactical feeds, Madison watched as the alien army that had nearly conquered Earth found itself trapped in a winter beyond anything in their experience. Their ships, their weapons, their supposedly superior technology, all transformed into Arctic sculptures. Legion teams moving to secure the command center. Larson reported. Minimal resistance. They're not built for this kind of cold, even with their environmental suits. Madison allowed herself a small smile. Transmit to all Earth resistance forces. Operation Permafrost is a success. Begin global deployment of weather control arrays. It's time to show the Kraxan what winter really means. As similar storms began forming over every major alien stronghold on Earth, Madison reviewed the tactical display. The Kraxan's invasion force was facing something they had never expected. An enemy that didn't just survive in the cold, but weaponized it on a planetary scale. They came to our world thinking we were primitive, she murmured, watching the storms spread. They never understood that adaptation is the most advanced technology of all. The war for Earth had reached its turning point, and winter was winning. The Kraxan's Supreme Commander's flagship hung in low Earth orbit, its crystalline hull reflecting the aurora that now danced across the entire planet. In the vessel's command center, Dr. Madison Hayes stood with Commander Larson and a small team of Frost Legion soldiers, facing down the alien leader who had ordered humanity's extinction. Your species, the Supreme Commander's translated voice carried a mix of fear and awe, was supposed to be primitive, inferior. Instead, you have become this. It gestured at Hayes, frost spreading from her feet across the ship's deck. We became what we needed to be, Madison replied, her enhanced eyes glowing like Arctic ice. Evolution isn't about superiority. It's about adaptation. The final battle for Earth had brought them here, to the very heart of the Kraxan command structure. Below, the planet-wide network of weather control stations had transformed Earth's atmosphere into a weapon, creating a winter that threatened even the orbiting Kraxan fleet. Your choice is simple. Larson stepped forward, his tactical gear frosted over. Leave Earth, or watch your entire invasion force freeze solid. We've already demonstrated what happens to Kraxan biology in extreme cold. Private Jenkins, monitoring the ship's systems through their captured interfaces, reported, "Ground teams confirm all Earth-based Kraxan forces are neutralized or surrendering. The cold, they can't handle it anymore." The Supreme Commander's outer shell crackled with crystalline patterns. Even here, in their flagship, the cold was affecting them. You could have used this power to destroy us completely. Why offer a choice? Madison shared a look with Larson before answering. Because that's another thing you never understood about humanity. We don't need to destroy to prove our strength. Adaptation isn't just about survival. It's about learning to coexist. Through the ship's viewing ports, they could see Earth below. The artificial winter storms were dissipating, revealing a changed planet. Civilization would rebuild differently now, incorporating the lessons learned in humanity's darkest hour. We're detecting mass engine startups across their fleet, Jenkins announced. They're preparing to leave Earth space. The Supreme Commander rose to its full height. We came seeking easy conquest among the stars. Instead, we found a truth we have forgotten. True strength lies not in dominating environments, but in becoming one with them. It turned to its command staff. Signal the retreat. Earth is not to be approached again. As the Kraxan ships began their withdrawal, Madison activated the global communications network. Her voice reached every surviving human settlement. The war is over. Earth is ours again. The celebration was tempered with solemnity. The price had been high, billions lost in the initial invasion. But humanity had not just survived, they had evolved into something stronger. What happens now? Jenkins asked, watching the Kraxan fleet disappear into deep space. To us, to the Frost Legion. Larson looked at his frosted hands. We protect Earth, not just from external threats, but from our own tendency to fight against nature rather than work with it. Madison nodded, pulling up data on her tablet. The transformation process, the weather control technology, it all has applications beyond warfare. We can help humanity thrive in environments we once thought uninhabitable. And the cold? One of the younger Legion soldiers asked. Will we stay like this? We are what we chose to become, Madison answered, her breath visible in the warming air. The Kraxan thought they would find weakness in our diversity, our adaptability. Instead, they helped forge humanity's next step forward. As Earth's artificial winter subsided, the Frost Legion began its new mission. teaching humanity how to build civilization in harmony with even the most extreme environments. Research stations expanded into thriving cities under the aurora. Mountain peaks and polar regions became centers of human advancement. The Kraxen had come to Earth expecting to find prey. Instead, they had become a crucial part of humanity's evolution story, the threat that taught us to embrace our true strength. In the end, they had not just failed to slaughter mankind. They had helped forge its future.